Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to get into not just a successful model, but really the foundational architecture that fixed the biggest flaw in the original transformer.
We're talking about Transformer XL. It literally cleared the runway for, well, pretty much every modern large language model we use today.
Exactly. And our mission here is to break down its two core innovations. First, this idea of segment-level recurrence.
And second, relative positional encodings. We really want to show why these were such game changers and how they let models finally think beyond a tiny fixed window of text.
Okay, so let's set the stage. What was the problem with the vanilla transformer?
Well, it was brilliant, fast parallel,
Yeah.
but it had this one huge bottleneck, its complexity.
The famous O2L complexity.
Right. And that forced everyone to chop up long documents into these little fixed-length segments, maybe 512 tokens.
Which created what the paper calls context fragmentation. The flow of information, the semantic continuity was just severed at every boundary.
So if a thought started at the end of one segment and ended in the next, the model was basically lost. It had no memory of the beginning. The dependency range was just capped.
So this brings us to Transformer XL's first big fix. Innovation number one, the segment-level recurrence mechanism.
This is where they gave the transformer a kind of memory, without making it slow and sequential like an old RNN.
And they did this by caching the hidden states of the previous segment.
And then feeding them back in as extra context for the current segment, Celso +1. Simple on the surface, but the real genius was in the training.
The stop gradient operator.
Exactly. That's the key. It separates two ideas that were always tangled together, the dependency length and the optimization length.
Okay, but hold on. If you use a stop gradient, doesn't that stop the model from learning relationships across those segments? Isn't that what you want?
It sounds counterintuitive, I know, but you have to think about it as just context extension. The stop gradient keeps the training part, the optimization length, fixed and manageable. But the dependency length, the amount of information flowing forward, is now, in theory, infinite. It just keeps passing from one segment to the next through the cache.
So that's the trick. The effective receptive field wasn't just the segment length, the dollar anymore. It grew to dollar n times L.
Right. Which meant a deep model could suddenly see like 12,000 tokens into the past. And the computational win during evaluation was it was insane.
Up to 1,800 times faster.
Up to 1,800 times, because you didn't have to do that painfully slow sliding window thing that vanilla models were forced to use. You just reuse the state.
Okay, so this memory cache is a huge success, but it immediately creates a new massive problem. Positional ambiguity.
The model gets confused.
Right. If position 0 is the first token of my segment, and it's also the first token of the last segment, how does the attention mechanism know which one it's looking at?
That's the precise challenge. The old absolute positional encodings were now useless. So the solution was their second innovation, relative positional encodings, or RPE.
So it just threw out absolute positions entirely.
Completely. The attention score is now calculated based only on the relative distance, the I-jailer between the query and the key. It doesn't care where they are in the grand scheme of things, just how far apart they are from each other.
And I know the formulation for this gets a little technical. With those learnable bias vectors, the dollars and the volar, why were those so critical?
Because they add in really important inductive biases. Things like a global recency bias, the idea that closer things are probably more important. It just helps stabilize the learning on these super long sequences.
And this is what led to that free lunch effect they talk about.
Exactly. The model generalized incredibly well. They could train it with a memory of, say, 384 tokens, but then at evaluation, they'd give it a 1,600 token memory and the performance would just get better.
And the results really speak for themselves. I mean, Transformer XL absolutely shattered the state of the art. The perplexity on Wikitext 103 dropped to 18.3.
Which was a huge leap from the previous best of 20.5. And it was also the first model to break the 1.0 bits per character barrier on NWIC8, a huge milestone.
Its architectural DNA is it's everywhere now.
Oh, absolutely. XLNet couldn't have worked without it. DeepMind's compressive transformer is a direct extension of this memory idea.
And most importantly, I think, its relative positioning concept is the direct ancestor of things like rotary positional embeddings. ROPE.
The same ROPE used in Llama and all the other modern LLMs. It basically proved that to get truly long context, position has to be relative.
So the big takeaway for you, the listener, is that Transformer XL was this watershed moment. It managed to reconcile the statefulness of RNNs with the raw parallel power of transformers.
Right. It gave us our first real taste of genuinely long context. And it proved that the fixed context window wasn't some fundamental law of physics for transformers. It was just an implementation choice.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought.
It does. If context is theoretically infinite, what is the actual semantic limit? How much knowledge can a model really internalize and recall from its history before the sheer volume of information starts to, degrade its own coherence?